My name is Lisa, and this is Happy Scrappy Life. It's the very first episode. I'm very nervous. Hopefully, I do okay. This will be a podcast about knitting, crocheting, mini skeins, scrappy projects. To be honest, I'm a jabberjaws, so probably a lot of other stuff too. Hopefully it'll be lots of fun. Hopefully I can get to know all of you very well. I love watching knitting and crocheting podcasts. Although I do watch a little television, I mainly watch podcasts. I enjoy them so much. I've learned so much from all of them. It's just fun to have someone to talk to about knitting or listen to that talks about knitting or crocheting. So a little bit about me. I am 45 years old. I live in Ohio with my wonderful, amazing husband, Tom. He's my very best friend. He helps me with everything. Hopefully I can get him to make an appearance or two on here. We've been together since I was 16 years old. We've been married 26 years, 27 in March. I don't know what I would do without him. He's my very best friend. We also have one daughter. She is 24 years old. She'll be 25 in April. Crazy. Hard to believe I have a almost 25-year-old daughter. Time goes so fast. If you've got little ones at home, love them and hold them, because before you know it, they move out and you miss them. She went away to college at Grace College, which is a small Christian college in Indiana. Loved it there. Ended up staying there, which is sad. We miss her a whole bunch. It takes about 4 hours to get to her, but we're so proud of her. She's doing wonderful. She lives with her very best friend, and she has a dog, a black lab named Izzy, who's absolutely adorable. That means my husband and I have an empty nest. We're enjoying that, of course. When she first left a few years ago, it was so hard. I had homeschooled her, so it was really hard when she left. I can remember that day we cried. It was so hard to tell her goodbye. After we left her at school, we went to a parking lot just right down the street, and I laid on my husband and we both just cried and cried and cried. I'm getting teary just thinking about it. And that was quite a few years ago. Silly. But she's doing amazing, and we're happy here. We get to see her a lot. We get to Skype or text a lot, and she's coming for a visit this weekend, so that's fantastic. But anyhow, my husband and I have a puppy dog now. We got him in on Mother's Day. He was my present. He's absolutely adorable. I hope eventually I can have him make an appearance on the show. Today he's in a cage right over here just to keep him out of my hair. When I was setting up, he was into everything. I knew he'd be on my lap the whole time. But I'll let you see him from time to time. I'm sure you'll see lots of pictures if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook. But his name is Buddy, and he is black and white, little teeny puppy, about 10 pounds. Probably won't get much bigger than that. They call him a teddy bear, is what they call his breed, but he's actually a mix between a Shih Tzu and a Bichon Frise. He's absolutely adorable. He's doing really well with potty training and everything else. He knows I'm the snuggler, which is nice, and he thinks that my husband is the player, which means when my husband gets home from work, he's crazy. He just wants to run and play, and he's just crazy. Hopefully you don't hear him whining too much in the background. Hopefully he'll just take a nap, but eventually I'm sure he'll be making some appearances. So back to the show. Thought I would tell you a little bit about myself. I have some notes down here on my computer. That's to keep everything straight. Hopefully I'll get better at that, but for now I've got some notes down there on my computer. Anyway, a little bit of background about myself. As far as my crafting, I grew up with a mother who was very crafty. It still is to some point, but when we were growing up, my brothers and I, she was always working on something. Most of the time it was sewing. She's an amazing seamstress. All through high school, she made all of my prom dresses and Easter dresses, and once my daughter was born, she made her lots of clothes. But the biggest thing that she ever made was my wedding dress. Absolutely amazing. I picked 4 different patterns: pattern for the bodice, a pattern for the arms, pattern for the skirt, a pattern for the lace on the skirt, a pattern for the train. She put them all together. She made a gorgeous, gorgeous dress. Maybe someday I'll pull it out and show you. But because she was such a good seamstress, I grew up, of course, around fabric and sewing machines, and I understood all of it. But she was so amazing. I never thought that I could possibly do as well as her. I didn't feel like I could come close to it. So I really didn't even attempt much garment sewing. Maybe someday. I know it's a very popular thing now, handmade wardrobes and all of that. But I did pick up quilting, and for a long time, that was my craft. I quilted. I loved quilting. I loved putting the pieces together, especially scrappy quilts. Right back to that scrappy stuff. I've always loved scrappy. Mixed up colors, mixed up textures. I just really enjoy it. I really should get some of my quilts out and show them to you. They're not the most amazing, gorgeous, beautiful. I have a long way to go. I've never really attempted very difficult quilting projects. I made this wall hanging back behind me quite a few years ago. Most of my quilts are squares or strips, and like I mentioned, they're mostly all scrappy, but we love them. They're cuddly and they're warm, and there was one in particular that I made when our daughter was young, and all 3 of us loved that quilt. It was a rag quilt, which means that you put the seams on the outside and trim them, and then they get all frayed out when you wash them. You put flannel in them. Very cozy, cuddly quilt. All of us loved that quilt, and it got a lot of use. It got a lot of washing, which made it softer and softer and more cuddly. Well, when our daughter graduated from college, that was one of the presents we gave her. Look at my face. It's getting all red. My eyes are getting all teary again when I mention her. It's crazy. She's going to be 50 years old, and I'm still going to be crying about her. Love her so much. But anyway, we gave up that quilt. My husband really loved that quilt. But we gave it up. We surprised her. I wrapped it up as a present and gave it to her, and it's in her house, and she loves it. But anyway, back to my little crafting background. So I loved quilting. I was crazy about it. But then suddenly I became more and more interested in knitting. My grandma Martin had taught me years ago when I was just a little girl how to knit. And so I could do basics, and I'd knit a few little baby size blankets or whatever, but I never really gotten crazy about it. But then, and I'm checking to find the date because I made all of this out in 2013, the knitting bug hit me huge. Completely addicted to knitting, yarn. I loved it. I love how portable it is. I love how I can create beautiful objects with it. I love how relaxing it is for me. I feel more calm and relaxed just holding yarn. I know that sounds crazy, but you guys are all knitters or crocheters. You get it. You love yarn. So I was crazy about knitting. Started with blankets and went on to hats and stuff. But then I discovered socks. Taught myself with via YouTube, Ravelry groups, Facebook groups. Don't really have any knitters or crocheters here in real life, unfortunately, and I don't have a local yarn shop, so that stinks. But I taught myself how to knit socks, and wow, That was it. I loved knitting socks. I have so many pairs of hand knit socks. I don't even know. I should count. Maybe sometime I'll get my drawer out and we'll go through all my socks. But I love them. I knit them all two at a time on magic loop. I always do toe up. I'm pretty much 90% have all been fish lip kiss heel, which is awesome. Sometime we'll go through my whole recipe of how I knit my socks and what I do and all of that. But I love knitting socks. Doing them two at a time is good because I can get them finished. When they're finished, they're finished. I don't have second sock syndrome. But I love casting on new projects. That's what I love more than anything in the world, to be honest with you. It's fun. You get a yarn, you cake it up, you split it to do 2 by 2 or 2 at a time, and you start those first few stitches, and it's so fun. And you do it for a while, and then I don't know, I get tired of it, and I want to go on to another one, and more yarn comes in the mail, or I see more yarn on my wall of yarn. Yeah, wall of yarn, crazy. Talk about stash some other time too, and I just want to cast on. That's all I want to do. There's nothing else but cast another pair on. So I have tons and tons and tons of sock whips. Again, sometime I'll pull all those out. We'll talk about all of those. My husband loves to tease me that go ahead and start a pair, but I don't think you'll ever finish it. He just asked me to knit him a pair a few months ago. Started it, got maybe this far, onto something else. Crazy. Around 2010, which was before I really got crazy about knitting. I was knitting some off and on, but I wasn't totally obsessed with it. I decided I wanted to learn how to crochet. Lots of people do both. I can see uses for both. I think crochet blankets are amazing, especially blankets. They go a little faster, but they're just the rhythm of the hook and the yarn, and I think it's awesome. So in 2010, I decided I wanted to teach myself how to crochet. No one here to help me, just the internet. And books from the library. So I did it, got frustrated, did it, got frustrated, did it, got frustrated. I can remember my husband laughing at me and promising me I could figure it out. He had faith in me a lot more than I did. But once I got it, it clicked and I loved it. And I took off. I wanted to crochet a lot. And eventually the knitting came in. And to be honest, I knit a lot more than I crochet. I've got a couple crochet projects sitting over here that I'm anxious to show you and tell you about. But I do knit more than I crochet, and I need to get back to more crocheting too. It's fun too, and it's a different rhythm, it's a different feel. To be honest, I feel like knitting is a little bit more meditative or calming for me, and crochet is a little bit more fast-paced. I guess it's the way I do it. I must knit slower than I crochet. I must get going with the crocheting, and I don't know. So my mood decides that a little bit, how I'm feeling, or if I'm needing to relax, or if I'm energized and excited. Pulling everything out to show you guys. Pretty sure I'm going to be back to all of it again. I just need more time to knit or crochet. I play with yarn all day with sock yarn swappers, but it kind of cuts into my actual knitting or crocheting time. I'm working on that. I'm trying to come up with a balance. Probably hear about that throughout the different weeks, but I really see a point for both. I don't think that one's better than the other. I probably would say that I definitely do lean more towards knitting, but I think crochet is awesome too. My mom had wanted to learn how to crochet, and my grandma Martin, who had taught me, she's passed away now, she had tried to teach my mom multiple times and just couldn't get it. I don't know if it was the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. I don't know if it was just my mom's a wall in my mom's brain. I don't know if it was the method my grandma was trying to teach her. I don't know. but she couldn't pick it up. So she asked me if I would teach her. And at that time they were living in Florida and I was down to visit. So I worked on teaching her how to crochet. And wow, that was funny. We had so much fun. If you're watching, Mom, I'm sure you're laughing about it because we had so much fun. The slip knot alone was a lot for her to process and to get figured out. And my Daddy just teased us both while we were working on it. It was a lot of fun. It's a nice memory. There go the eyes again. My goodness, I'm a cryy today. Sorry about that. Crazy. Speaking of teaching people to knit or crochet, I also taught our daughter how to knit a few years ago. She was home on a visit from college for Christmas, I believe, and maybe she was from work at that point. I don't remember if it was college or work, but she wanted a hobby and was feeling a little stressed, and I thought maybe knitting would help her. I taught her. That was an experience and a half because I am right-handed and she is left-handed. So everything that I did, she had to do backwards, and we tried everything. We tried facing each other. We tried her sitting beside me. Finally turned to YouTube. Found some knitting left-handed videos, and that helped tremendously. She made a little dishcloth, and it turned out wonderful. And then she bit the bullet and jumped into a huge blanket. Garter stitch, tons of knitting, simple blanket. I think it overwhelmed her, to be honest with you. I don't think she has the love of it that I do at this point, but I'm 45 years old and she's 24 years old. So it didn't bite me for a long time. 24, I wasn't interested in that. I was raising a baby and didn't really have time for that. But she's busy with her job, her career, and her friends, and Izzy, and it just hasn't bit her. So she has a very long, but not very tall, whip blanket, knitting blanket, work in progress. And that's okay. She'll come back to it. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But the memories of teaching her how to knit, they'll always be in my heart. It was fun. We had a ball. So I think that's probably enough jabbering about me. Just background stuff. Like I said at the beginning, I am a jabberjaws. Oh, I meant to mention that I have created a Ravelry group for Happy Scrappy Life podcast. Links will be in the show notes, which will be in the group, which will be on my blog. I have a blog, happyscrappylife.com. I'm going to try to put them in the down bar thing. I've heard people say it's difficult. I've heard other people say it's not. We'll see. I'm on Facebook as Lisa Martin Woodruff. I'm on Facebook a lot. I post a lot. There's tons of awesome knitting and crocheting groups there on Facebook that I like to go on and talk about my knitting and show my pictures and get advice and encourage other people, and it's fun. And then Instagram. I am Happy Scrappy Life on Instagram. Love Instagram. Nice thing about Instagram compared to Facebook is there isn't nearly the political or, that kind of stuff. It's mainly just pictures. Now on Facebook, I tend to mostly look in all of my groups, so I miss out on a lot of that, which is totally fine with me. But Instagram is, I follow a lot of knitters, and knitters follow me, crocheters, crafters. So it's fun because I can see a lot of their projects. Of course, I get enabled a lot. Makes me want to start everything I see. Makes me want to buy every yarn I see. It makes me want to buy every bag, every stitch marker, whatever. But it's a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm Lisa Martin Woodruff on Facebook, and I'm Happy Scrappy Life on Instagram, and I'm also Happy Scrappy Life on Ravelry. On Ravelry, I have the group that I just created for Happy Scrappy Life podcast. And then I also have another group called Sock Yarn Swappers, which I've mentioned a couple times, and maybe I'll go into it a little bit right now, and then we'll go into it more in a little bit. But Sock Yarn Swappers is something that I started in 2015. I had started a mitered square blanket. I call mine Sock Yarn Blankie. A lot of people call them cozy memory blankets. So fun. I'll show you mine. I actually have two of them. I love them. They're just so satisfying and so fun to work on. It's almost like starting a new project every time you start a new square, which of course the squares are this big, so you're starting squares all the time. But anyhow, I had started one, loved it. Didn't have a lot of minis or scraps of fingering weight yarn. So I came up with the idea of swapping with people. And I put it out there. Lots of people were interested. I started a group on Facebook and we swapped back and forth. But then my mind kind of got thinking, and I was thinking it would be so much fun if I could set up some kind of thing with dyers where I ordered or purchased yarn, a set of colors of yarn from them, and then I would make them into the minis, and then I would sell them to people in my groups. And I called it Swapless Swaps, and people fell in love with it. They went crazy over it. It's grown and grown. At that time, I was a secretary at a church just down the street from us. Great job. Full-time secretary, church secretary. Pastor was wonderful, easy to work for. Church was great. Before I got that job, I'd never really worked much. And after Ashley went off to college, I thought we needed some extra income to help with the college and the expenses and so on. And kind of needed to fill my time. I was missing my baby. So I got a job at the church, and we didn't attend that church. We attended a different church, but it had just happened to come open, and I happened to come upon the listing, and I believe it was a God thing. I really do. But I got that job. It was wonderful. And at the time when I started Sock Yarn Swappers, I was still working full time. And Sock Yarn Swappers just grew and grew and grew. People went crazy about it. So then eventually my job got cut down to part-time. And then a little over a year ago, I actually was able to quit, and I was able to focus on Sock Yarn Swappers and be home full time, which is fantastic. So my job is I play with yarn all day, which who can complain about that? But anyway, back to a Sock Yarn Swap, Swapless Swap. So let me explain a little bit about it, because I think a lot of people don't quite get it until they sign up for one, but you gotta pay, so it's kind of hard to sign up for something if you're not sure what it is. So what happens is, in the group Sock Yarn Swappers, right now I have swaps posted all the way through the year. Each month there are swaps. Also, I do some in different podcasters groups as well. Worked with awesome podcasters, but then in my own group I have them too. And so, for instance, an upcoming one is Tangled Strings. Great dyer, beautiful yarn. And so you go on the group, you see the listing of all the different dyers. Each month there's different ones. Money is due by the 15th of the month. For instance, money for Tangled Strings is due the 15th of October. And then your minis will be shipped to you. I will get them shipped by November 15th, so a month later. So there is a little bit of turnaround if you sign up for swaps that aren't due until January. You're going to wait a while, but you know that. It's clear when you sign up for them. I hold two different kinds. I hold 20-yard swaps and I hold 40-yard swaps. A 20-yard swap is you get 20 minis, and each one is 20 yards long, which is approximately 5 grams. Not exactly, it depends on the yardage and the weight and so on, but it's 20 yards, which will work for most mitered squares, if they're not huge squares. And you get 20 of them. And then the other one that I do are 40-yard swaps. Those are bigger minis. For those, you get 40-yard minis, which are approximately 10 grams each, and you get 10 of them. So either swap, you end up with about 100 grams or about a skein of fingering weight yarn. But the cool thing is you get 20 different colors or 10 different colors depending on the swap you sign up for. And a lot of dyers, I do both a 20 yard and a 40 yard, and they're all different colors. So if you sign up for both of them, you're going to end up with 30 different minis from a particular dyer. They're awesome for lots of different things. You can put them obviously in your mitered square blankets, which are the huge craze, but you can put them in a granny stripe. You can make granny squares. Scrappy socks. I've got a pair of scrappy socks I want to show you. They're just fun. A friend of mine on the internet, she's made Scrappy sew faded sweater. Gorgeous. She's on her second one now. She's amazing. But you sign up for the swap. I add you to the list. When the money's due, you pay your money. I order the yarn. The yarn all comes to me. Most of the time in the big skeins or hanks. Then I make them all into balls, my husband and I. He helps me tremendously with this. I make them all into cakes, and then we make them all into minis, and then we sort them all out to their little packaging, and by the next month, we get them all shipped out. And it's a great way to just add to your mini skein stash, but it's also a really fun way to try out new dyers, or new to you even. There's so many indie dyers out there, and can't just buy them all. But this way you get to see a bunch of colors from one dyer, and it's fun. So I have a group, Sock Yarn Swappers. Link will be in the thing too, the show notes and all. I'm gonna talk about the ones for October here in a little bit, but you'll hear me talking a lot about making minis and so on. I'll do videos about how we do the whole process at some point, but wanted to tell you all about that. So that is a lot of jabbering, a lot. We're half an hour in, I think, about. I'd like to say it's because it's the first episode and I had to get you caught up on everything, and baloney. I'm a jabberjaws. I'll probably talk and talk and talk like this every week. So hopefully it doesn't drive you too crazy. Personally, I love getting to actually know the podcasters. My favorites are ones where they tell me about their life and they just scatter it throughout the whole thing, and I love that. It's like I have a friend in another city that's just telling me about her life and telling me about her knitting, and I enjoy it. So to be honest, that's probably how I'm gonna be, but now I'm ready to start actually showing you some knitting and some crocheting. So I thought I would, well, first of all, for this episode, because it's Happy Scrappy Life, because I'm crazy about minis and scraps, and I thought that I would just show, this one will be all themed scrappy stuff. Everything I'm going to show you is all scrappy. I do have other projects that aren't scrappy, tons of projects, and I'll show you those. I love how the podcasters use the little locking stitch markers or the fancy stitch markers to mark their progress. Progress keepers, I guess they're called. I'm definitely going to start doing that. So you'll be seeing how far I get on all of my projects. So I'll put my little marker in and I'll work for the week or 2 weeks, however long till next time I podcast, and pull it out and you'll see how far I went. Speaking of which, before we get to the knitting, one more thing. I gotta warn you right now, I am way more of a starter than a finisher. If you like watching podcasts that have lots of finishes, FOs, then I'm sorry, but you're probably gonna be disappointed with me. I'll try to do better. Maybe I will with the podcast now, but I am discovering that I am way more of a process knitter or crocheter than I am a product. I love having the product. I love my cuddling up with my blankets that I've knit or crocheted, wearing my hand knit socks, seeing someone, my daughter or my husband or whatever, wear something that I've made them or use something I've made them. But the process is what I love. I love the actual process of starting the project, working on the project, seeing it grow. I love it. So I think that's a lot of why I don't finish things. I finish things, but not very often. I think part of it too is a lot of my projects are huge. They're Afghans and they're gonna take forever. And most of them are in fingering weight yarn that's really gonna take forever. And I want them huge because I want to cuddle up with my hubby underneath them. So I will have some finishes, but I'm way more of a works in progress kind of gal. So, but for today, I do have some finished objects. Long ago finished objects, but there's some scrappy things and I thought you might like to see them. So, the first one is a granny stripe blanket. I know right now they're huge. I've got one going, a popular thing with fingering weight yarn. But back when I first taught myself how to crochet, that was the first project I took on. Insane, right? But I wanted to do it in worsted weight. At that point, I didn't really know a lot about fingering weight yarn and indie dyers and all of that. So I cast on and I knit. It was finished in November 2010, so a long time ago. It's made out of worsted weight yarn. It's a granny stripe blanket, is just what I call it. I started with 300 chains. Yeah, you heard that right, 300 chains. Worsted weight yarn. For the chain part, I used an eye hook, but for the actual crocheting, I used a 5mm, which is an H crochet hook, and I made it enormous. We have a king size bed, and it hangs over all of the edges of the bed. The weight of it alone, it's all worsted, it's acrylic yarn, because at that point I didn't really know much about fancier wool yarn, indie dyed or anything. So it's all acrylic, but it's all scraps. And this is it. It's huge, so I'm not gonna be able to really hold it out and show it to you. I don't know if you can tell, but it's got it all folded up here. It's giant, and it is so warm. But as you can see, I did 2 rows, so I went down and back for each color. And I didn't, as far as I know, I don't think I repeated any yarns in this whole Afghan. And it's huge, bigger than my king size bed. At the end, I put a couple of rounds. You can see how pilly it is because it's just acrylic, and it's been loved to death. It was on our bed for a very long time. So warm in the winter, but then we got a down comforter, which is extremely warm, and I'm getting older and I'm getting into that hot flash stage. Not fun. But so this and the down comforter was just too much on the bed. It was too hot for me. So now it's in our living room. Unless my parents or our daughter comes to visit, in which case they always grab it and it goes in their bedroom. So that makes me happy. But this is it. I put 2 rounds of just a simple edging around it. And gosh, it's heavy. And this is it. And like I said, I finished it November of 2010. I just worked and worked and worked. So let's try to show you from one end. This is one end. It's humongous, right? Amazing. Love this thing. So that's the first project. So then, let's see. I started another one, and I wanted it out of a little nicer yarn. Still didn't really know about fingering weight and sock yarn and all that, but I just wanted, I don't know. The other one was all just random, a lot of red heart and cheaper type acrylic. So then I started another one, and this one is entirely out of Brown Sheep Lamb's Pride worsted weight yarn. It was a nice yarn to work with, and it's worsted weight as well. Made it with an H hook as well. Started the chain with an I. This one I didn't make as big. I started it with only 198 chains. I say only, like that's nothing, but that's still a lot. And it's still a nice size blanket, but it's more of a throw over your lap on the couch than really get under it and snuggle. I have to be honest, it's not completely finished. There's no edge on it. I would like to make it longer, but I got tired of working on it. I think it's the worsted weight yarn. I think I wanted to get back to, or I've discovered fingering weight yarn and just wanted to work with that. But so the cool thing about crochet is at any point you can just cut your yarn and tie your little thing off, your little, you know, the little, I don't know, the loop at the end to make it like a knot, and you can use the object. And then when you want to pick it up again, just attach new yarn and go. You don't have to cast off like you do with a knitted project. So this one's considered finished in a way. It's down here in our living room. We use it a lot too. But technically it isn't really finished. I don't have it finished on my Ravelry page. Have it marked as a work in progress. I'd like to get back to it at some point. Sorry about that. It's a little thirsty from talking so much. But I'd like to get back to working on it again. But for now, it's a on hold, I guess we'll call it, project. So it's another granny stripe. And this one, like I said, is all the Lion Brand Lamb's Pride. Isn't the yarn gorgeous? It's just, I don't know, I just really like it. I like the deep colors. I like the way the yarn feels. It's got a little bit of a halo-y thing to it, and it's nice. So, and really, honestly, like the edges, eventually, if I ever actually finish it, I'm sure I'll put an edging around it, but this is nice too. It's kind of pretty with all the different colors down it. Now this one I have, I didn't look. I'll link all of my project pages, and I'm pretty good about keeping them up, more because I forget stuff, and if I want to remake it, I want to know how I did it. But I don't remember how many colors I have, but I know I am repeating colors in this one. So this is half the width, and it's not super long. So right now when we use it, we turn it, because it's not finished, we turn it. So like my big granny stripe, this is how when we use it, it goes this way. So the stripes all run this way across our body. But when we use this one, we just turn it this way. It's basically just for one person. It's you know, because I need to do a lot more. It isn't huge, and I can't cuddle with Tom underneath it, so I don't like using it as well. But it's nice if he's at work or whatever. And the stripes go up and down now. So that's kind of a fun thing. But this is it. My second granny stripe. Love this pattern. If you haven't tried it yet, I think it's Attic24. She has a blog. It's on Ravelry. It'll be linked in my project page. But she's amazing. She has tons of great patterns. But this is fun. A lot of people are working on these. I'll show you my scrappy one in a little bit. But this is one I finished. Well, didn't technically finish, but I'm guessing I probably knotted it off. Let's see if I can find that end where I have that knot. Yeah, right here. So you can see that I've got my string still hanging, and whenever I want to start up, I'll just pick it up right here and go again. But I'm guessing it was probably 2011. I don't know. Probably middle maybe. Because I finished the other one the end of 2010. And I think I started this one almost immediately. Then got tired of it. Let's see, I have another one. Oh no, that one was finished fast. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. But that's it. My second granny stripe. And then I have, this one's a little different, similar but different. This one is a homespun VVS, vintage vertical stripe. And it's it's crochet as well. I'm sorry, both of those were crochet too. I should have mentioned that. You probably can tell that, but I have knit a huge blanket for my daughter when she was going away to college. There goes the face again, my goodness. But I did knit her a big blanket to take away to college to snuggle up with, and still uses it now, but it's not here. It's at her house in Indiana. Maybe sometime when we're there visiting. We're actually going there for Thanksgiving, which is so cool. She's gonna cook. My parents are gonna come. She's gonna be cooking for us. It's gonna be so fun. That's the nice thing about having a grown daughter. She can cook Thanksgiving dinner, and I can just knit and visit, and I'll help her too, I'm sure. But anyway, maybe when I'm there, I'll take a little video of some of the stuff I've made her that are at her house. But anyhow, back to the blanket. This one is crochet as well. It's made up of single crochets. No, looks like just double crochets. I don't even remember. Isn't that terrible? But I finished this one January 2011. Now that other one was finished November 2010. So I might have been working on them together. I can't really remember. But I finished this one in January. It is made out of bulky weight yarn. The whole thing is entirely made of Lion's brand homespun yarn, and which is very soft and kind of silky. Like it's a different feel than either of those other blankets that I've made. And I used, let's see what the notes say, 6.5 millimeter crochet hook, which is a K. And when I did my chain to start off, I did 125 chains, and I used an L hook. I always like to go up a hook size when I do my chain to start with, because first of all, when you're making blankets that are gigantic, you have a huge long chain, and that gets to be crazy. But if you use a little bit bigger hook, then it'll make the little the V's, I don't know what they're technically called, that you stick your hook into to go for your next row, a little easier to get into, because the chain can get a little tight, especially the longer you go. Another little tip that I use is, and I don't remember where I heard it from, those little plastic locking stitch marker, you know, the little safety pin looking things, about every 50 chains as I'm going, it depends on how big of a quilt or a Afghan that I'm doing, but if sometimes 25, sometimes 50, I'll put a little marker in there. So then I just have to count up to 50 again, put a marker, count up to 50 and put a marker. And then I can just count my 50s until I get up to 360, whatever. But this one was only 125 chains, but because it's bulky weight, it's still pretty big. So this is it. It's kind of a cool pattern, right? I mean, I don't remember what the stitches or really anything about it, but I remember it was easy, but it looks kind of twisty. I don't know if you can see that. It looks kind of twisty, and the yarn looks like shiny, and it's pretty pilly too, but it's because it's used a lot and washed a lot. And all the way around it, I did, well, it looks like 3. Yeah, I did this blue. Let's see here. I did the blue, and then the maroon color, and then the green. And that is all the way around for my edging. And it's a nice, big, cuddly Afghan as well. And so that was another one of my finished objects. And then I have one more I want to share with you. I love the idea of scrappy socks, especially with all of the minis that I get now because of the Swapless Swap. I always sign up for a spot for myself, and sometimes there's leftovers if the skeins are longer or whatever. And so I have a ton of minis. If you could see right over here, you would see my wall of yarn. You would see a bazillion bags full of extra yarn from swaps, which I'm working on a swap that we had for September. I got lots of minis to make for, I called it Clear the Containers, and I sold the minis at a discounted rate. Now I got to make all those minis, but it was very popular. I'll probably do it again maybe in a few months or something. But anyhow, so because I have access to so many different little bits of yarn from so many different dyers and colors, I'm using them for all of my scrappy blankets, but I also thought scrappy socks would be a fun idea. And sometimes you'll come across a dyer who is just amazing. Artistic Yarn by Abby is one of those dyers. You probably know her from her biggest, well, I don't know if it's biggest, I don't know if I should say that, initial, maybe we should say, yarns was her watermelon yarn. Gorgeous. But anyway, I did a swap with her. I have another one coming up in a few months, so check out the group. There's lots of spots left. You will love the minis from her, I promise you. But I did a swap years ago. These socks were finished April 2016. So I finished them pretty quick. I would guess they were probably a swap maybe from March or February maybe. But I finished them just within a few weeks because they were so much fun. I just wanted to get to the next mini and the next mini. And so here they are. They don't match at all. I didn't want them to match at all because I wanted to use all of the minis that I could. So this is, oh, I have sock blockers. I forgot. I should have used them. Oh, well, next time, I promise. But this is them. So as you can see, the cuff, that was a mini. That was a mini. That was a mini. That even was a mini. Can't really tell because it's there. You didn't get a lot of it, but there's the watermelon I was talking about. It's just amazing self-striping. I think this is kiwi or green apple. I don't remember. All these different ones. Isn't that cool? So that's the first sock. And then this is the second sock. All different minis. I think this was one. Maybe that was, this was, oh, there's an 4th of July America type one. I think this might be cantaloupe. There's apple. So those are my scrappy socks. And so the way that I made them, I used a 2.5 millimeter US 1.5 needle. That's pretty much my typical sock knitting needle at this point. Chiago, I don't know if I said that right, but Chiago red lace, absolute favorite needles, period, but especially for, period really I should say, especially for knitting socks or now knitting sweaters. I just recently kind of gotten crazy about that. And knitting sweaters, even, it's nice with any kind of lace work or increases like the raglan increases. They're just nice needles. They're not very expensive. The points are nice. I personally love the cord. A lot of other needles, I feel like the cord is too floppy for me. And the Chiago ones are, they have like a, they feel like they have like a metal core and then a red kind of vinyl covering. They're nice needles. If you haven't tried them, I would highly suggest you trying them. But anyhow, I used a 2.5 millimeter, which is a US 1.5, and I knit them toe up. I think that I did 18 to 20 rounds per mini so that I could get a good chunk of them, but I kind of wanted to get all of them, and I think I did. I'm not sure. The way I like my socks long. I like my cuffs long. Thanks for more knitting, but the ones that I try to knit shorter because I want to hurry and get finished, I don't tend to wear them as much. So what I like to do is literally, see, these aren't even quite as long as I really like. Oh yeah, close. I like to, I do them toe up, so I knit toe up. I know my little measurement or whatever for my foot, which actually coincidentally, I don't know if this is how it is for everybody, but for me, if I am knitting a sock and I start toe up and I slide it over my hand and I pull it down, when it gets to about my wrist, a little below the, like the fold part of my wrist, like down here maybe, it's time to start the heel. Who knew? I don't know if that's how it is for everyone, but it fits me, my hand and my foot. So I just kind of slip it on my hand, and when I get to about here, I do the fish lip kiss heel, which is this. It's very popular. I think it's $1, the pattern is, but it's a fantastic heel. It's easy, fits well. I would kind of like to get back to some more heel flap. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Heel flap and gusset type heels. But that, I would need to start from the top, and I would need to do a Kitchener stitch to close up my toe, which I can do, but I don't love. But I do love the process of the heel flap and gusset. So maybe sometime I'll start some of those. But this pair, I just do the fish lips kiss, and then I knit up the leg. And as I'm knitting the leg, I fold it over to see where the leg is hitting, where the toe is hitting on the leg. And this one isn't quite as long as I'd like, because the cuff started when it hit about here. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know how to show you that. And really, ideally, I would have liked to not start my cuff until I get to the very toe. So I would have preferred it to be about like that. But they're still comfortable. I still wear them all the time. And then I start 2x2 rib and Jenny's surprisingly stretchy cast off or bind off. I don't remember. Oh, and for the toe, I do Turkish cast on. It just wraps around your needle. Super easy. So that's how I do the cast on. I have a kind of a little recipe plan thing for how I do my toes. They're pretty rounded. I don't like the real pointy wedge type toes, but I'd have to get notes to tell you how I do that. So we'll do that another time. And then I knit a cuff that, well, at this point I wasn't, but I like to knit a cuff that's about as long as my finger. If I lost my hands, I'd be in trouble. But they're my ruler. But I like to knit my cuff about, I like to knit my cuff about to the end of my finger. So, but like I said, these were finished back in April of 2016. So, you know how it is. You keep changing your stuff and going further. But this is my 2 pairs of Artistic Yarn by Abby Scrappy socks. So that's another fun thing you can do with your Scrappy, your minis from a Swapless Swap. Any scraps or minis that you have, but the Swapless Swaps are fun because like this is all from the same dyer. So that's kind of cool. But a couple more of these types of socks on my needles. But I didn't pull them out today to show you because I already have so much. We're at almost an hour right now. And I don't know if I'm going to attempt any kind of editing at this point. Probably going to just upload it and see what happens. So we need to keep moving. So that's the last finished object. Obviously I've finished a lot more things in the past, but these are all Scrappy type things that I've finished. So now we're going to move on to some current projects. These are all my current Scrappy items that I'm working on, except for Scrappy socks. I forgot to pull any of those out. These are all the blankets, basically. So the first one, which started this whole lifestyle, I guess you call it. It's crazy, but Scrappy lifestyle, and started me on the way to sock yarn swappers and all of the fun, amazing people I've met and everything else. But it's my sock yarn blankie, and I've got him a mess right here, so we'll explain that in a minute. But this is what I'm talking about here. But this is my blanket so far. Let's see if I can show it all to you. So that's the start of it. So it's not huge yet. It's long, wide, but I have a long way to go. But as you can see, most of my squares are this size, but then every so often I'll add a nice big one for the yarn, if I love the yarn. I mean, I love all of the yarn, but there's some more of it. And more of it. There's some that cheeseburger yarn from this one here, from Artistic Yarn by Abby, who those socks were all her yarn. There's some more. And some more. Tend to like to do the big squares with self-striping yarns, but I'll do small squares with self-striping too. And this is the end. This is Vesper. Knitterly Things Vesper. Nice yarn too. And this one, black and yellow, black and yellow. I'm a huge Steelers fan. Huge. You'll hear me talk about that, I'm sure, sometimes. But I love the Steelers. So I had to add myself a Steeler square in here. But this is my blankie. I love it. It's very wide. Let's see here. Well, if my memory serves me right, my mom taught me that from my nose to my finger with my arm stretched out was approximately 3 yards. Gosh, I've been using measurements from my body for a long time. That's funny. But it's 3 yards. So if that's the case, then we're at about a 10-yard wide blanket. I wanted it nice and big. This is going to live on our couch, and I am sure my husband and I will cuddle under this thing all the time, if I ever finish it. But the process of making it is so fun. So what I do with this blanket, and then, well, this blanket, is I'm using a 3mm US 2.5 needle, and each square, the smaller squares, the bigger ones I double, but the smaller squares are 40 stitches when I cast it on. So then you do your decreases down the middle. And I do a knit front back before the marker in the middle, and then a knit 2 through the back loop. Not knit front back. Knit 2 together before I get, because I'm decreasing, knit 2 together before the marker, and then a knit 2 through the back loop after the marker. And I always slip my first stitch with the yarn in the front, both rows, back and forth. Decreases only do on the front row. And then I always knit through the back loop for the last stitch. And the cool thing, I don't know if the camera, oh yeah, it looks like it might, picks up, looks like it might pick it up, is I get these V's that run down. By doing that, the slipping with the yarn in the front for the first stitch and knitting through the back loop for the last stitch, I get these V's that make it so easy to pick up my next square. No problem at all. Sometimes I'll pick up 2 in the corner so that then I'll just knit them together on the way back to get rid of them, but to make it so I don't have a hole. But I love this. So this little messy part here, I keep all of my scrappy blankets right now till they get bigger. Well, I have baskets in my living room and in my bedroom with a bunch of minis, and then that I got at Hobby Lobby. A bunch of minis in them, they're big baskets. A bunch of minis, and then sometimes I'll put one of the scrappy blankets, whatever one I want to work on, right then. Then I also have this bag. Gorgeous bag. Easily my favorite bag maker in the world, and probably my favorite podcaster too, I love her, is Amy Beth, who is the Fat Squirrel, and her podcast is Fat Squirrel Speaks. There's her tag, but I don't think. Oh, there's only words on one side. Well, it's backwards, it looks like. I don't know if it'll be straight or not. I hear podcasters say that, and I never understand how hard that can be, but now I understand. But anyway, Fat Squirrel Speaks. Fat Squirrel Fibers is her store, and this is one of her amazing bags. Can you see how huge it is? It's way bigger than my head, and I got a pretty big head. It's awesome. The zipper's nice, and if you want to peek inside, you can see, if I can show you, a whole bunch of yarn in there. And a bunch of these projects were in there. So that's how I store them. But because I store them like that, I've always got, like, I used up 2 double points to make these kind of ones. I've always got the ball of yarn that's the little ball of the mini that's bouncing around. So what I do is I put my double points in one of these needle cozies, and then I use a little clip like I was talking about, and I just clip on my yarn, the little yarn ball I'm using. So then I can just throw this whole thing in my bag and not worry about that falling off. As far as my needles, I treated myself. My birthday's in March, and I think it would have been when I started this. I started this April 2015, so probably in April, I don't know, but late for my birthday. But I treated myself. Maybe it wasn't even for my birthday, maybe it was Mother's Day. I treated myself to some, well, one is falling out somewhere. That's not good. Hopefully it's just in my bag or basket. But I treated myself to some Signature needles. Gosh, they're amazing. They're the best needles ever. I love how pointy the tip is. I love the feel of the metal. They're just awesome. They're expensive needles, but I knew I would be knitting a lot. I'm trying to look where that other one went to. Who knows, I'll find it. I knew I'd be knitting a lot of these type of blankets. So I started, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. Looking at the time and it just went over an hour, and I'm hoping that I'm not losing this part. Sorry. Anyway, new podcaster problems. Hopefully it'll work out. So when I purchased these, I purchased one set of these needles, and I got double points because you could get a bigger set. I think I got 5, and I just can use them on both sides. I bought the longer double points because I knew the next blanket I wanted to do would be a bigger square. And I just took 2 of them and put them with this project and 2 of them with the other. So, look here, here's my other needle. It had just fallen out. So I'm gonna stick her in here and then put them in here. So that's the first scrappy project that I've got going on that I love. I work on a lot. I have a lot of them, so it's hard to see progress on anything when you've got so much going on. But it's nice to have a different project to pick up whenever you want. So this one I'm doing, I don't know if I said, I'm doing 40 stitches for the squares for this one. And this one's for Tom and I. Then, about a year later, in June of 2016, Ashley, our daughter, asked me if I would make one for her. Which she doesn't love scrappy stuff nearly like I do. So when she asked me to, I was thrilled with the idea of that. So I jumped at it. So I started one for her. Got my same setup here with my needle and my yarn hooked onto it. And hers isn't nearly as big. But, oh, that's the back. Let's show you the front. Gosh, I got kind of a mess here. So, her squares are bigger. Her squares, I do 60 stitches for each square. Do everything else the same, get the edging the same and all that, but I do 60 stitches and I don't do any of the bigger squares. So, this is her blankie, and it's growing, as you can see. And she didn't want hers quite as huge as Tom and I's, so it's not quite going to be quite as wide, but it's still going to be real long and big. So that's that. And this one, same size needles, same way I do everything. It's just I'm doing 60 stitches for the square instead of 40 stitches for the square. Next one, oh, those are knitting. Next one is crochet. And I call it the Epic Afghan. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be kind of a bigger deal because of having to join them. But I am making granny squares. These cute, little, adorable granny squares. Aren't they adorable? This is some of them. I have a bunch more over there, but each granny square, I use a 3.5mm E hook, and I do 6 rounds for each of these little grannies. So I do 6 rounds and then knot it off and then go on to the next one. I think they look so cute all piled up like that. It's messy, but and I have lots more over there. But same deal. I'm using all my minis from my Swapless Swaps for this as well. And then after I get a few made, I use cream yarn, I think Cascade, I'm not sure, I don't remember, to edge them and then join them as I go. So I edge and join and edge and join, and I have this so far. And it's going to be huge too. I just like my blankets big. I like working on them, and I like them big. I like to cuddle up underneath them either by myself or with my hubby, and it's just nice to have a nice big one. So that is, I'm calling it the Epic Afghan. The join as you go, I can't remember her name, Bella Crochet maybe, I don't remember. It's linked in my pattern, in my Ravelry page, but she has some awesome videos about doing the granny squares and about how to join as you go. And so that's that. And then the next project that I have that's a scrappy project is my granny stripe, my crochet fingering weight granny stripe blanket. I'm calling it a Scrappy Granny Stripe. And I started it December 2016, so almost a year ago. I'm realizing looking at these projects that I have so much further to go. I need to give them more time and attention. But right now I'm crazy about sweaters, which we'll talk about next week. But so anyway, this is the Scrappy Granny Stripe. I started it December 2016. I'm using a 3.5mm E hook, just like the granny squares. And for this one, I started with 362 chains. Fingering weight, wanted it big. So this is my progress so far. Now, as you can see, it is extremely scrappy. There's no stripes of color, there's no back and forth, nothing like that. It's just scrappy. What I love to use for this are these. They're called magic knot balls. Found the video online of how to do the magic knot, and I just go along my minis, next one, knot it in, knot it in. Doesn't matter how long each one is, it gives me all different random links of color in my blanket, and the balls are kind of fun to make. I actually sell them in my Etsy shop, which is Sock Yarn Swappers as well. I can put a link to that in the notes as well. But it's nice because you just keep knitting and knitting, or crocheting and crocheting, and out of the magic knot ball. And this is it. Put it a little closer so you can see it. All fingering weight, all indie dyers from my Swapless Swaps. And that's one end. That's the end. I guess this is the bottom. So yeah, because here's this that I'm starting. Here's my little marker thing that I use to hold my little loop so I don't lose it till the next time I'm ready to crochet. So that is my Epic Afghan. Epic, oh my goodness, Scrappy Granny Stripe. I've been talking too long, I'm getting tongue-tied. So that's that, super fun. And then the last project that I wanted to show you today is another scrappy one. And this one is totally mindless knitting. I mean, really, mitered squares and stuff, vanilla sock, whatever, pretty mindless. But this is completely mindless. You just have to do the little yarn over at the beginning of the row, and then you just knit and knit and knit. So a lot of you probably know about the Grandma's Favorite dishcloth with the garter. It's the diagonal, and it's all garter, and you've got the little edging around it. They make wonderful dishcloths, by the way. Made a million of them. But when my daughter was little, hopefully I can get through this without getting all red-faced again. When I was pregnant, actually, for our daughter, my grandma Martin, who was my dad's mother, has passed away years ago, who's the one that taught me how to knit. She knit a blanket for my daughter that was the grandma's favorite dishcloth, but she made it into a blanket, a rectangular blanket. And it's turned out great. I mean, it was just simple. She made it out of cotton yarn, and it was light colors. Sorry, gotta put my legs out. It was light colors, pinks, and just, you know, it was nice. My daughter loved that blanket. Loved that blanket. She called it her bee. She slept with it every night. She carried it around everywhere she went. She loved that blanket to pieces, literally. It's upstairs in her closet in a plastic baggie because it's in pieces and frayed, and she loved that thing to death. I love that we still have it. It's a little piece of Grandma Martin, and there I go again. But she, anyhow, it's a great blanket, and it's a great baby blanket if you have anyone in your family or friends that are having a baby that you want to knit one for, which I'm working on one, but that's kind of, we'll show that later. But it's great. You can do it in any weight of yarn. But so my scrappy one I'm doing is out of fingering weight yarn. I'm using a US 4 needle because which is a 3.5 millimeter, because I wanted it really drapey and comfy. And I just want to, I pull this out when I just want to knit, when I have a lot on my mind or I'm stressed and I just want to knit and I don't want to really think. And so this is it. So this is the start of it. It's down there in the V. It kind of looks like a shawl right now. And you just increase, 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 and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, this is extremely scrappy. Literally just knit until you finish with the mini and go to the next one. Got my ball here. This was a magic knot ball that's almost finished now. So I've got it hooked to the thing. I'll probably start another magic knot ball for this project too, just because I can just go, go, go. But if I don't have any and I don't want to make one, then I will just use minis. And just as I get to the next mini, the way I do it is kind of a cheater way, but the way I do it, and I've always done it this way and I've never had a problem, is when I get to the next color, I just knit both strands together for like 10 or 15 stitches, and then I drop the old and pick up the new, or keep going with the new, and that's it. That's how I weave my ends in. I snip them close, and that's it. Another thing sometimes I'll do, like with this, when I see that I'm getting to the close to the end, I'll just do a magic knot and then go on to the next one. But you can see on the edge, maybe you can see on the edge. Yeah, there. Just put it against, I don't know what. Maybe my shoulder? No, that's not gonna work. There, you can kind of see, right? The little holes. So that's made with yarn overs, and it just puts a nice little edge on the blanket. But it's so stretchy because of being on the bias, and it's soft, and it's not real heavy. Those worsted weight blankets that I made are awesome, and they're very, very warm. But when it's not freezing and snow on the ground, which it is in Ohio and I love, but when it's not, a lot of the year it's not, and it's nice to have a lighter weight blankets too. So this is my grandma's favorite. I started it just this year, February 2017, and haven't gotten very far. We're to the middle of February, towards the end, or middle of 2017, heading to the end of 17. I need to give these stuff more attention. But so that is the last scrappy project I wanted to show you today. So last thing I want to talk about are, well, two things, I guess, kind of, is sock yarn swappers. So I already explained it to you. The threads are up, you pay, I make the minis, then I ship them out to you later. I wanted to share the October swaps that we have going on. Today is September, I don't even know, September 21st. So I am working on all of the swaps that were paid for by September 15th. actually September 20th because I delayed payment a little bit. But anyway, I'm working on those minis now. So I'm making those minis, and sorry about the puppy if you can hear him. He's ready for me to be finished. But I'm making those minis right now. And maybe next week I'll show you a little bit of the process or some of the minis that I've made. But then in October, so the next cycle that we're on will be October 15th. And the swaps need to be paid for by October 15th. And then you would receive them. They'd be in the mail by November 15th. There's still spots available. So I'm excited to tell you about the swaps, featuring some relatively new dyers, which is so much fun, in case you want to go sign up. So I will put links in everywhere that I can, and I hope you check some of them out. So for October, the first swap we're having is actually full. Blew up as soon as I posted it. It's a new idea I've come up with. It's not my idea. It's my first time doing it. Lots of people, dyers, have done this. But I'm doing a Christmas Advent swap. So for this one, people will get their 20-yard minis. They'll get 25 of them. They'll be in a dark baggie. And each of these ones will be labeled. Normally they're not. It's too much time for me to label. I do thousands of minis every month. So it's way too much time for me to label all of them, but I put the colorway names on the front of the baggie. But for the Christmas one, I'm labeling each of them. They'll be in a dark baggie, and then each day people can pull out a mini, figure out what it is, and then knit with it each day leading up to Christmas. So that's super fun. It is completely full, and I've started an alternate list, which means if people back out, don't pay, whatever, then I take them off, and then I can add you from the alternate list. There are still quite a few people on the alternate list, but the swap's big, so there may be people that back out. If you're interested, be sure to go ahead and comment on the thread that you would like to be an alternate, and I'll get you added. I've decided to do those type of swaps I think I did them quarterly. I think I'll be doing them quarterly. The next one coming up I'm calling Spring Fling, and it's already posted on the board. You can sign up for it. There's tons of spaces yet for it, so grab one if you're interested. But all of those yarns are going to be, they'll be in the first of the year, and they'll all be bright, springy, or pastel-y, springy, just spring type colors. Get us excited about spring, and then we can knit with them the month leading up to spring starting. Any of these group type swaps, like the Christmas Advent, Spring Fling, other ones that I have coming up, those ones will be various dyers. And for Christmas, I have them posted what dyers they are. For the spring one, I haven't yet. I'm still working on getting dyers for that. By the way, if you're a dyer and you're interested in being featured in one of my swaps, hit me up. Send me a message on Ravelry, Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever you'd like. All my links will be in the show notes. But I'm always looking for dyers to work with. If you're a podcaster and you would like to hold a swap for your group, again, message me. I'd love to do that too. It's super fun. It's a great way for more people to learn about swapless swaps. So the Christmas swap is one. It is full, but go ahead and sign up if you want to be an alternate. Then all the rest of these have spots, a lot of spots still open. So I would love it if you sign up for some of them. The next one is called Critium Handmade Yarns. I think I'm saying that right. Critium. And there's both a 20-yard and a 40-yard swap. Spots in both of them still available. And she actually sent me a couple skeins of yarn. So I thought that I would share those with you guys, give you an idea of what the yarns will look like. These may or may not be in the swap. She didn't mention that. But it'll give you an idea of her coloring, her dyeing techniques, and they're beautiful. So over in the Sock Yarn Swapper group, I have a craft along, I guess you can call it, called Mini Mania 2017. It's been a year-long thing, still going on. Look for threads for that if you want to as well. Anyone that's working on any Scrappy projects, you just post about your projects as many times as you'd like throughout the year. Randomly, I'll go through and use random number generator and pull prizes. So that's a super fun thing, and it's awesome motivation to see other people's scrappy projects that they're working on. So the first skein she sent me, well, first of all, let's see if we can show you her. This is her label. It looks backwards. I don't know if it will be for you or not, but it's Critium hand dyed. I'm sorry, Critium handmade. And this yarn is going to be one of the giveaway prizes. It is called Neon Lights, and it is a 80-20 blend. It's got these black, gorgeous black, and this bright green. Looks pretty true. Maybe a little brighter on screen. Get away from the window a little maybe. But so this is going to be a prize over in the Mini Mania thread. And then this one I'm keeping for myself. And I haven't started anything with it yet, but it's gorgeous. And it is this. All of these gorgeous colors. Green is my very favorite. But there's lots of different colors. This colorway is, I cannot even, Satrang 1, I think. That might be a reference to something that I don't know about, but I love the colors. So probably be socks, definitely be a square on my blanket, maybe on a couple blankets. So this one was a donation to me, and this one's the prize donation, so that's super fun. Thank you so much for that. Critium handmade yarn. Check out her thread. We've got lots of spots open. It's gonna be a great swap. Swaps, 2 of them. Next one is Tangled Strings yarn. Now, I found out about her through Instagram, reached out to her, asked her if she wanted to be, maybe she reached out to me, I don't remember, a dyer and a swap, and I discovered she lived in Hawaii. So cool. Never worked with anyone from Hawaii before. So she is going to have both a 20 yard and a 40 yard swap in the group, Sock Yarn Swappers group. Lots of spots open in both of them as well. Links for all of these swaps will be in the show notes too, and links to their shops will be in the show notes in case you want to go buy some yarn from them now. But she sent 2 skeins as well, one for me and one for a giveaway. And this was hard because I really love green. Green is my favorite. She said I could pick whichever one I wanted, and green is my favorite. But I have a wall of yarn over there, and looking at it, over half of it's green. I pick green yarn all the time when we shop, when I order online. If someone's donating yarn to me and they give me an option of what I want, I pick green. I'm crazy about green. But for this one, I loved the other skein so much, and it kind of looked like fall to me, and I thought it'd be fun to maybe knit something with it with the fall coming up. So I chose to let the green one go for the giveaway. So this is the green one. Oh gosh, it's so pretty. And looking at it on screen and here in front of me, it makes me question my choice. Gorgeous. But this is her label too. I should have shown you that. Tangled Strings. And this colorway is called Hippie Chick. And this one, she told me, will actually be in one of the swaps. I don't know which one, but it will be part of one of the swaps. So that's kind of cool. You sign up for the swaps. Sign up for both swaps, you're guaranteed to get one. But so this is the another giveaway prize for the Mini Mania. And then this is what I kept for myself. It's called Bluegrass and Bourbon, which we're not drinkers, but whatever. I still love the colors so much. Just looks like fall to me, does it you? There's oranges and blues and different shades of blues and whites, and thinking it would be fun, there we go, to do socks. Definitely square on my blanket, maybe on a couple blankets. Maybe I will have started it by next time I talk to you. We'll see. But so this one's for me. This one's for the giveaway. Super fun. And then one more yarn to show you. This one, oh, and Tangled Strings, 2 swaps in the group, 20 and 40, lots of spots open again. Last one is Wild Happy Color. Now, for her swap is in the Crazy Sock Ladies podcast group. By the way, awesome podcast. Love Kay so much, so much. So excited when she started a podcast. Friends with her on Instagram, and she's holding this one in her group. So she's actually got swaps posted I've got swaps posted in her group for the next few months. So that's super fun. You should check that out. The Wild Happy Color is the swap for October. And it's a 40-yard swap. That's all we're doing over there, but there's a bunch of spots. And we can keep adding spots if we need to. So head on over there and sign up if you're interested. It's called Wild Happy Color. Here is her label. Sure hope these will flip for you guys. I don't know. We'll see when I look it over. But this is the skein she gave me to knit with. It's gorgeous. It's on her Abundant base, which is BFL, silk, and cashmere. I've never knit with silk or cashmere. It feels so soft and so nice. And the colors are so pretty. You gotta make a pretty cool shawl. Although I don't tend to knit or wear shawls. Maybe they'll just be fancy socks. We'll see. But the colorway is called Hope Springs Eternal. So even got a little stitch marker on here. She sent me some other stitch markers as well. So, and again, her swap will be over in the Crazy Sock Ladies group. And I just appreciate the donations so much. It's so fun to play with the yarns ahead of time and to show everybody. And of course, prizes. Prizes are always welcome. Hopefully I'll get some giveaways and stuff posted in this group as well for the Happy Scrappy podcast. Happy Scrappy Life podcast. I was thinking about getting a drink. So that's all my yarny goodness for this week. I try not to buy yarn much because I have so much, but I'm bad about doing it. I still do it. And I'm fortunate that lots of dyers like to donate yarn to me, or bags or whatever, so I get them that way too. So I'll be sharing those as well with you. Probably be doing some sneak peeks of some yarns that come in for some various swaps I'm working on. Problem with that, I'll do that definitely to share the yarns, but by the time I get the yarn, those swaps are already closed. So when I get yarn ahead of time from dyers like these, it's so nice because I can show it to you, give you an idea of what the yarn's going to look like. So that's that. So I guess we're down to a little teeny bit of life. I'll probably talk more about life stuff as each week goes on, and I already talked a bunch about me at the beginning. You're probably sick of hearing about me, but I did want to talk a teeny little bit about last weekend. My husband and I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I love the Steelers. I know I've already mentioned that, but you're going to hear about it a bunch. And I like Ben Roethlisberger a lot. I know he's had some issues, but I want to believe the best in him, and I just think he's an awesome quarterback. Fantastic quarterback. And I'm afraid this is probably his last year. His body is falling apart, and he talked about not coming back, but he did. So I'm hoping they go to the Super Bowl. That would be awesome. But this past weekend, my husband and I went to Pittsburgh, and we stayed for the whole weekend. We visited lots of places, ate at some of our favorite restaurants. If you ever go to Pittsburgh, Pamela's Diner is the absolute best breakfast you'll ever have in your life. It's really good. The restaurant's fun. It's fun to drive around Pittsburgh. It's fun the hills and the mountains. The bridges are amazing. We had a fantastic time. Tom and I really enjoyed ourselves. We left Buddy with the boarder, so that was kind of nice to just be the two of us. But on Sunday, we went to a Steelers game. Wow, I love going to Steelers games. Last year, we went to a Steelers game. We also got to tour the stadium on a different visit, and this was our second game. The first game we went to, we got very close seats to the field, and that was cool because I could kind of actually sort of see the players and their faces and stuff, and that was really neat. But then this time, we got further up seats. Tom thought it might be nice for me to have a different viewpoint of the whole field. So we were on the 50-yard line, but we were way up, section 535, I think, if I remember right. But we were like, it was perfect seats. I think honestly, that's probably the seats I would want next time if we ever get to go again. Hopefully we do at some point, but it's a pretty big expense, but so worth it. But we were up high and you could look down on the players and you could see the plays unfolding, and it was so much fun. We had a fantastic time. And then just a teeny little bit of upcoming fun. Our daughter, I might have mentioned this earlier, is coming to visit tomorrow. So we've been busy this week getting ready for her, and I've been working on sock yarn swapper stuff. But her roommate, who was her roommate in college, they'd met at school, so they didn't even know each other. They're very best friends, lifelong friends now. But they're her roommate, and then her dog, Izzy, is coming. They all three are coming to visit this weekend. So it's going to be a quick visit, but I'm so looking forward to being with her. So I'll probably have some stories about that next week. And with that, I think we're at the end. I can't believe it's an hour and a half. I can't believe I just jabbered for an hour and a half. I hope I didn't bore you too much. I'm so excited about this journey, about this new thing. I love podcasts so much. I love knitting and crocheting, and I love scrappy items. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would love it if you would like, I don't even know how to say it right. Like the video, I guess. Share it. Tell your friends about it. It'd be fun to have more and more people. And subscribe. For sure, subscribe, because then if you subscribe and then next to where you click subscribe, there's like a bell-shaped item. Click that and it'll turn on notifications. And what that means is you'll get an email every time I post a new video. So I'm hoping it'll be about once a week. Might be every 2 weeks, depends on how life is going and how far I am with my swaps for the month. But that's the plan, at least. Be sure to check out the group on Ravelry. Follow me on Instagram and Ravelry. Happy Scrappy Life. Find me on Facebook, Lisa Martin Woodruff. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Work on those scrappy projects. Post about them in the groups. Send me messages, anything you want. I'm excited to get to know all of you. And I hope you have a great week. Thanks for watching. Bye.